Hello and welcome everyone, and thank you so much for joining us this afternoon for the third and final instalment of our Leaner and Greener webinar series. I'm Patricia Kingston, Corporate Events Officer at Tourism NI, and it's my pleasure to welcome you along today. Welcome back anyone who's been with us for this whole Leaner and Greener journey since our in-person masterclass back at the end of last year, and a warm welcome also to any new faces joining us today for this particular topic. Today's webinar is being delivered as part of Tourism NI's ongoing Tourism Enterprise Development Programme, and we're absolutely delighted to be joined today by Danielle McCormick from Triterra. A few of you might have been lucky enough to see Danielle presenting at Northern Ireland Hotels Federation's fabulous Taste of Tourism event earlier this month. So over the next 45 minutes or so, Danielle's going to be delving a little bit deeper into the Guardians of Grub campaign for us and sharing a whole range of tools and tactics for addressing food waste in your business. Can't wait to hear what we've got in store today. Afterwards, we're going to have time to pick up some of your questions. So any questions at all during Danielle's presentation this afternoon, just pop them into the chat box in your control panel, and I'll be picking up as many of those as I can at the end. So now, without further ado, my absolute pleasure to introduce Danielle McCormick. Good afternoon, Danielle. It's great to have you with us today. Over to you.
Thanks for inviting me along. So, okay, I will get started on this then. So, we're going to talk a wee bit today, as Patricia said, about food waste and trying to reduce food waste within your business. We'll have some stats and facts, and also some of the tools that you can use through Guardians of Grub to really help you combat that within your organisation. So I'll just move just very briefly about myself for anybody that doesn't already know me. I am a sustainability consultant with over 21 years experience in the sector, working through a whole range of programs, including the Tourism NI Kickstart program. I'm also founder and chair of the All Ireland Sustainability Events, and we had her for one of our events last week in the Europa Hotel. As Patricia has mentioned, there might be certain elements of this that are quite familiar to a lot of you, as we did do a version of this at the recent NI Hotels Federation event, but this is an opportunity to look a little more in depth at some of those materials and some of the information behind that. So moving swiftly on from me, who are WRAP? Well, WRAP are a climate action NGO working across the globe to tackle the causes of the climate crisis, working with governments, individuals, businesses and organisations right across the world. Their vision is a thriving world in which climate change is no longer a problem. And they work across quite a range of campaigns and initiatives to really help make that happen, which you can see on this slide. So they tackle the issues surrounding plastics and resource management through a few of their campaigns, the UK Plastics Pact, Recycle Now. They also work on textiles through the Love Your Clothes campaign and Textiles 2030. But what we're here to focus on today is really more around the food and drink element. Within this, they again have a range of both public and private sector initiatives. They have the Court Hold commitment, which is very much focused on retail. Again, the food sector, we have Love Food, Hate Waste, which is very much a consumer-focused initiative. And then we have the Guardians of Grub, which is hospitality and food sector focused, and what we'll talk about a wee bit more today. So when we look at delivering change, food waste has a massive impact on the environment, with 1.3 billion tonnes of food being wasted every single year. And when we think about the agricultural impact of that, agriculture uses up to 70% of global fresh water that's available and creates 30% of the greenhouse gases that are currently in the atmosphere. So food waste has a massive, massive impact on, I suppose, the carbon footprint of the environment and also the climate crisis. As part of WRAP's work, they are feeding into the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. For anybody that's not familiar with them, they essentially are like a blueprint of how we can work together across a range of different areas to really develop a more sustainable world in the long term, and that's economically as well as environmentally and socially. Food waste falls under Target 12.3. Target 12 is about responsible consumption and production, but 12.3 delves a little bit deeper into the food waste element, and what it seeks to do is to halve global food waste by 2030 at retail and consumer level and reduce food losses across the supply chain, including post-harvest losses. And really, anybody within that hospitality and food sector can sign up to become a Guardians of Grub partner and help make wasted food a thing of the past. The tools that we'll talk about here today are really designed to help planet, community, but also very importantly, profitability, because as we all know, a sustainable business has to be sustainable financially as well. And in today's economic climate, food waste is certainly one area where we could look to save a significant amount of money within our businesses. So this presentation seeks to look at, well, why should we care about wasted food and what can you do to tackle it? And then just how that also helps to contribute towards carbon reduction targets and how the resources that we have available can really help you within your business. So if we look at a few statistics and facts at the moment, we'll start with this one. So for every 2 tons of food we eat, another ton is wasted. So essentially, 1/3 of all food that we produce globally is wasted, which is, it's madness, especially when you consider 1 in 9 people across the world are still going hungry. And we're finding more and more, even within our own local environments or local communities, we are seeing people going hungry. And so it makes no sense in terms of profitability or community. And if we were to look at the effects of food waste on the environment, if we sort of added up the contribution that that wasted food makes to the environment, it would be considered the 3rd largest greenhouse gas emitter after China and the United States. So again, significant impact from that alone. If we delve a little bit deeper into the more local impacts of that, so when we share these statistics, Northern Ireland are a part of those figures. So the UK and Northern Ireland's hospitality and food service sector throws away about 1.1 million tonnes of food each year, and 75% of that is completely avoidable. Every year, this food waste is costing the industry about 3.2 billion, which is a significant amount of food waste. And also, in general, right across the globe, that food waste is estimated to cost about 960 billion. Again, a significant figure. If we delve down into what that means for individual businesses, the resultant average cost to local businesses could be as much as 10,000 per year. And as we'll see in another slide, actually depending on the type of business you are and the amount of servants that you have per day, that could be significantly higher. And for every 1 kilogram of food waste, it's the equivalent of throwing away about 3 kilograms of carbon dioxide equivalent. So again, just some stats and facts there to get us started. So if we sort of take it right back to the start where the produce is planted, and if we look at potatoes as an example of that, for every 100 potatoes that are planted, 2 are lost to the field, so they just don't get collected. 9 are lost to the grading system, so that's where a potato isn't quite the right size or shape for the supermarkets, and the supermarkets can perceive that their consumer is looking for a certain size or shape. So 9 go to waste in that. Another 3 are lost to storage, and 17 are lost to packaging and transportation. So 36 potatoes are lost before they ever reach the hotel or the restaurant. Once it hits the premises, we find then 9 are lost to spoilage in the kitchen, 20 to prep, and another 15 to plate waste. So 44 potatoes are thrown away within the hotel. Of those 100 potatoes that are planted by, consider your local farmer and the effort that goes into creating that produce, only 25 of those are eaten. 75 are lost. It's a crazy figure. I mentioned earlier about how, depending on the type of business that you are, that figure could be a lot higher. So what we have here is the type of service outlet, roughly what the average cost of avoidable food waste would be per cover, and what that can amount to at the end of a year. So if we look at quick service restaurants, unsurprisingly, you're talking in and around 14p average cost of avoidable food waste per cover. If you're a high-end hotel or restaurant, that goes up to 52.97p. It's significantly higher, probably because the cost of that produce is also significantly higher. Depending on the amount of servings that you're creating a week, or covers, as they mention here, if you're at the lower end, you could be serving 500 covers per week. If you're at the upper end, maybe is as much as 1,500. If you are a high-end restaurant or hotel, you could be losing up to £75,660 per year. Now, again, that is the top end of what you could be losing, but even for quick service restaurants, you know, if it's only 500 covers per week, that's still 3,640, which is a significant sum, especially if you're a smaller business. And let's not forget as well, within the tourism sector, we're very customer focused in Northern Ireland. We're very, very customer focused and very hospitable. So we want to give our customers what they want. And this is becoming very important to the customer. The marketplace has changed rapidly. We find that 81% of the UK population do care about the climate crisis, and 32% see a link between food waste and the environment. Now, food safety will always be the primary concern, but 57% of people believe that food waste is the next most important issue. So they don't want to see food going to waste. And in addition to that, as I say, we have loads of headlines here that focus on food waste in general. It's important to remember that within the tourism and hospitality sector as well, we do have you know, statistics that are proven that sector has changed as well. So there were statistics from Booking.com that showed trends that 71% of travellers want to travel more sustainably, and a third of those travellers are looking for more locally relevant experiences. And knowing the region and how much focus we put on our food provenance and our food experiences, that's actually a massive opportunity in how we engage our customers and give them what they want. Oops, I think I've actually went forward a wee bit too much. Hold on. There we go. So if we look at a little bit now at the, I suppose, how we would go about maybe trying to reduce that and the tools that are available. If you're interested in setting a food reduction target, it will really provide a clear purpose and structure to how you go about running the business and running the kitchens. It will allow you to build an action plan around that will also feed into your sustainability plans or policies, and it will help demonstrate tangible progress as part of your own net zero journeys. It will also enable you to contribute to the SDG 12.3. So again, it's ticking a lot of boxes in terms of your strategy overall. And I know from working with local businesses that developing those policies and strategies is becoming really, really important. And communicating that as well to their customers is really important. So we've got a short video here that will introduce the Guardians of Grub. So I'm going to let this play for just, it's a very short video, so I'll let you get on with that then.
It takes an enormous amount of time, resources and energy to produce our food. And then our industry throws away 1 million tons of it every year. All of this food waste is wreaking havoc on our world. It's devastating the climate and putting our planet in peril. However, A group of everyday heroes is rising up and taking a stand. It all begins with the boss, the leader of the pack. Waste food? Not on her watch. The preserver, aka the freezer hero. No one's cooler than him. He makes food live for as long as possible. And on the front lines is our waiter. Wraps up what you can't finish, he lives to serve. Next up is the buyer, Mr. Organized. He keeps track, takes stock, and crunches the numbers, making sure he never buys more than he needs. The chef. She's creative and bad to the bone. Uses the head, the tail, the whole darn thing. No team's complete without our stockroom superstar, the kitchen porter. Hangs on to every stalk and every stem. He sees the shroom for improvement. Together they are the Guardians of Grub. Join the movement and find out how you too can rise up against food waste. Visit guardiansofgrub.com.
That's great, thank you, Barry. Okay, so we'll go back to the presentation now. So that just sets the scene. I know it's quite a light-hearted video, but it's just to give an idea as to how the whole kitchen team can really get involved to try and reduce food waste. And that's going to be really important as well as you move forward. So I think, no, we haven't jumped forward too much. So what can we do to tackle food waste? Let's start delving into the materials there and some of the practical tips that you can take away to try and tackle this for yourselves. So we have step-by-step action plans there that are, again, downloadable. And we have some that look very specifically at operator types and others that look at influencer partners. And these are real step-by-step action plans that all include a wide range of resources that you can link directly to from those action plans. So we've got those. And then, of course, we have a whole stack of other resources as well. So if we break these down into, we have operational, and then we also have campaign-based. So the operational resources are very much the resources you would use with your kitchen staff in your kitchen to measure the food waste, identify the different areas, calculate what that's costing you, and try to tackle those. The campaign toolkit is much more communications focused and helps you to really communicate that message. And again, for businesses who are on this journey or who are already doing great things here, I would say, as somebody that works a lot within that green marketing sphere, that you're missing a trick if you're not communicating that to your businesses and to your stakeholders. You can also subscribe to receive regular updates from the Guardians of Grub newsletter. And not forgetting, of course, that Tourism NI have a wide range of resources available directly from their own website under their Leaner and Greener web area. We have a very basic cost savings calculator. This one's quite simple, and you can just go in, establish what sort of business you are and roughly how many servings you are putting out per week or per day, and that will give you a rough calculation as to how much you could be wasting in terms of money every week or year. So that's directly on the Guardians of Grub website. And then we also have a very short 15-20 minute cost savings skill course. So this course, you register completely free. All of the materials are completely free. So you register, you go in, it'll take you through a few modules just to really set the scene for how important it is not to waste food, the financial benefits to your business, and some hints and tips as to how you can start moving forward on that. And then just some of the feedback that has been received. Essentially, they genuinely seem to really love it. We've run this locally as well. We have a wide number of partners here in Northern Ireland, including Tourism NI, Visit Belfast, Hospitality Ulster, NI Good Food, and the Hotels Federation, not to mention, of course, a lot of businesses within the hospitality and food sector. And the feedback that we have received is that it's very succinct, very to the point, it's, you know, well laid out, it's interactive, and people do seem to enjoy just scrolling through it and learning a wee bit more at their own pace. For people who have completed that, you don't actually need to complete it, but if you're looking for a deeper dive or something where you can really seek to train your own staff, we do have the Becoming a Champions course. Now, again, this is established that there's a number of individual modules which you can go through. Again, each module takes maybe 20 to 30 minutes. The whole course takes no more than half a day, about 3 hours tops. You can go through it, as I say, just at a time that suits you. And at the end of that training session, you get a certificate upon completion and access to loads of tools, templates, how-to guides, case studies, so on and so forth. So again, if you're interested in a deeper dive, you can contact RAP or myself, which I can forward on to RAP and then help you get access to that as well. And again, the feedback has been really, really great, and it's really seems to be helping people to make those changes within their businesses. What people are saying about Becoming a Champion course, again, we've sort of touched on that. I've actually just highlighted the key points within these two quotes. We have IHG, who felt it was instrumental in helping them understand where and how their food was turning into waste, which we'll talk about a wee bit more in another couple of slides. And within this other business, we find that just talking about the food waste really helped to influence change within their sites, and put initiatives in place around that zero waste dishes and utilising excess stock and menu innovations and so on and so forth, and also donating surplus to the community. The Getting Started Guide, again, you can download this from the websites, and it just goes, it's a real step-by-step guide as to how you can start to make those changes for yourselves. For anybody that also works with members, for example, within markets or events, this would be a really good starting point for you to share the same information with them to really help them look at their individual contribution to that food waste. In terms of in your own kitchens, as I mentioned in that quote a couple of slides back, it helped IHG identify where and how that food waste was happening. For most businesses, you may be able to turn around and say, yeah, well, we know we're wasting this amount of food because it's possibly being collected by a food waste, well, hopefully being collected by a food waste recycling agency or going to an anaerobic digestion site. But if you really ask them to delve down into, well, do you know where that food waste is stemming from? Where's the real problems within the business? They may not know. And this is where this slide comes in really handy. We within the Guardians of Grub initiative would encourage businesses who are hoping to set a food waste reduction target to start with, you know, their baseline, they know where they're at, and then get 4 different containers where they can label. Those labels are available to download as well from the website. And they don't have to be fancy containers, they don't have to be new, they could be some bucket that's lying out the back somewhere. But to label them up: preparation, spoilage, plate, and other. So that might be the likes of surplus. So as the food is being prepared, again, anything that's left over after that prep, like stocks, that would go into the prep bucket. Spoilage, as it suggests, anything that's gone off, it hasn't been used, it's been sitting in the fridges, into the spoilage bucket. Plate, as it suggests, anything coming back in from the restaurant floor or shop floor goes into plate waste. And other, again, anything that falls outside of that, maybe where you've ordered too much food, that would go into that bucket. What we would recommend then is that at the end of the day, you take each of those bags and you weigh the bags so that you start to see where the key areas of wastage are within your premises. And again, the weighing scales, the weighing scales don't have to be anything fancy. They can be normal bathroom scales or luggage weight wear, if you know what I mean. And from that, you should start to get some really good data as to where the key areas are so that you can tackle those individual issues. Within the website, so that you can again keep on top of that, we have a tracking sheet. So as you're weighing each of those bags, you can track that over a number of days. This tends to work much better if you can dedicate somebody who's prepared to do that weighing at the end of each day, and somebody that's prepared to take accountability and responsibility for finding that information. We do also have hints, tips, ideas as to different ways that you can save on food waste, and we also have our summary checklist, so you can go through that again bit by bit and see what you're tackling, maybe what you're missing, ideas that you may seem really obvious that you haven't thought of. And then once you have your tracking sheet at the end of that week, or however long you decide to do it, you can start to put that into the calculator. So there's the food waste, the food tracking calculator. It helps you identify through really nice graphics where the food waste is coming from, how much it's costing per cover, per week, month, or year, and the carbon emissions that are associated with that. Because again, what we're finding more and more is that businesses are starting to seek out their own carbon footprints and calculating those up, partly as to give that information back to their board, to their stakeholders, but also to their customer and as part of their marketing initiatives. There is also an app. It's not Guardians of Grub owned, but Unilever work very closely with WRAP, and they have an app called the Wise Up on Waste tool as well, which you can also choose to use. And that again is free to anybody that wants to use it. So that would be a lot of the operational tools that are available for you there, and how they would work and how they would help you within your business. If we look a wee bit more now at the campaign toolkit, so that's how you communicate what you're doing. We have again a whole list of things here that can be really, really helpful to you. So we have our posters. Again, you just download those, print them off, or get them professionally printed. You can use these across your premises, within your staff areas, and even to communicate online. We also have loads of short videos, which you can use on your own social media or comms channels. Again, there's no charge associated with these. These are free for you to use, and actually we would completely encourage you to use all of the materials there and helping to get that message out, because don't forget, it's not just your business, it's getting that information out. You're really helping to maximize the impact of the message overall on reducing food waste. And we also have lots of case studies as well. So something there to inspire you and see how these, I suppose, initiatives have really worked in action for businesses like yours, businesses of all shapes and sizes, and to see how they have found it for themselves. We have a couple here, which I'll touch on in another couple of slides. We also have a number of videos, webinars, case studies that you can view via video, as I say, as well, and it goes into a wee bit more depth on things like skills, serving net zero, video clips, and they're all bite-sized, they're all fairly succinct, because we do appreciate everybody is extremely busy. And once, if you decide you're interested in becoming a partner of the Guardians of Grub, so essentially that's if you're interested in any of the things I've mentioned here today, even as a partner, it might be for you that you're prepared to support the communications and the sharing of that message with your own membership. We will send you back like logos and things you can use in your own materials. A lot of the materials that are on the website for download can also be co-branded. So we do work very much in partnership with the organisations who utilise the materials. And of course, we would be absolutely delighted to have you on board. And in Northern Ireland, our partnership base has been growing and growing, and we're delighted with some of the really big organisations and tiny organisations that we have on board to really maximise the message locally too. So as I mentioned, we have a couple of case studies. We actually have 3 here that I'll run through quickly with you. So this was the ship in Cumbria, and they found from using the materials and the guidance that was available through the Guardians of Grub initiative that they found an 84% reduction in spoilage as awareness had changed within the premises. There was an 80% reduction in prep waste. That was mainly as a result of switching to pre-prepared vegetables and pre-cut chips. In fairness, I would argue that that waste has just been moved to somebody else. If they're still getting somebody else to prep it. 67% reduction in plate waste through offering smaller portion sizes, especially of chips and sauces and garnishes, which tend to be a real offender. There's always a lot of that particular material that comes back, and that saved them about $6,040 a year. So they felt that had, it was a really worthwhile initiative, really worth doing. And even if you don't think you have time, they stress that you definitely do. All you need is the buckets in the kitchen, and once staff are briefed, it actually doesn't take very long at all. We also look at another, this is a pub, a country pub, the Harrington Arms in England, and they found a 48% reduction in spoilage from tighter ordering, more manager oversight, and buying smaller quantities of things. 31% reduction in prep waste, and interestingly, they found that weight, that percentage had gone down because they switched from knife to peelers, but also pre-prepped. And I suppose if you do think about peelers, they tend to take away a lot less than what a knife will do. There was also 28% reduction in plate waste, and again, that was from more tightly controlling portions around chips and offering smaller portion sizes of mains. So again, sometimes you'll find that, and you're starting to see it more on menus now, where there's like a medium or a large or a small portion that's been offered, so that people can pick a portion size that's more relevant to their hunger needs. And again, they felt that it was an excellent or a really good exercise, and it was perfect timing for them. They definitely would recommend for other people to do it. And they did feel, and this is key, to enroll the staff, and it needs to be sold into them in the right way as well. And I guess they need to be reassured that it's not going to add to their day-to-day activities. It's not going to become more cumbersome, because already, as we know, within the hospitality and food sector across Northern Ireland, they're already under pressure, and staffing can be a massive issue there. If we look at a more local case study, this case study was carried out around 2017-18, so definitely before the pandemic. And this was a joint case study with environmental health officers from Derry City and Strabane District Council, and Mid and East Antrim. And they worked with 17 businesses to measure the food waste using the free tools and the calculators over a 6-week period. They identified a total of 131 tonnes of food that was being wasted per year, which was costing a combined almost 252,000. Prep and plate waste, unsurprisingly, once again, were found to be the biggest sources of food waste. And by continuing to use the food waste calculator, 2 of those businesses were able to demonstrate a reduction in food waste after only 4 weeks. If we look at this in a wee bit more depth and break down some of the businesses that they worked with. So the reported food waste, so this is tonnes roughly per business per annum. So every one of those businesses that they work with within those sectors. So hotels were creating about 11 tonnes each per annum in food waste. That was costing them about 23,153. And I would say that's a cost that's gone up significantly given the current cost of living and the cost of food at the moment. Restaurants weren't terribly far behind. They had about 10 tonnes each per annum, and that was costing them in and around 18,000. Whereas the likes of residential homes, it was a much smaller amount. It was 0.9, costing them closer to 1,500 per year. And one of the participants just loved the calculator, and they did share that out. So they found it very, very useful, and really liked the visual tools that were there as well. And I guess if you're in a situation where you're regularly reporting back to management on your sustainability journey or a cost-cutting journey, looking at your overheads, then that could possibly be a very useful one for you in your reports as well. So just to start to wrap up on this, if you want to make a commitment to take action on wasted food, and actually we had Food Waste Awareness Week running from the 9th to the 12th, so we've just missed that. It was last week, but you can still very much get involved. And we are still recruiting partners here in Northern Ireland. If you're interested in becoming a partner, I would love to hear from you. You can send me your email address, danielle@triterra.co.uk, and I will make sure that you get everything that you need through the Guardians of Grub team. But you don't have to come through me to use the materials on the website. They are all there completely free. And just to remind you, they're also on the Leaner and Greener section as well of the Tourism NI website. And again, they're nice and straightforward to use, very, very simple. As I mentioned earlier, it makes sense to try and appoint a Guardians of Grub champion, just somebody that's going to really take accountability for measuring and reporting on that food waste and keeping an eye on things, and somebody who's going to, I suppose, really learn and try to influence the staff there as well and how they can do things differently. And then just, if you want to go beyond basic communications, commit to setting a food waste reduction target within your premises. My I suppose advice to you would be to try and be realistic in your target setting. If it's not realistic and achievable for you, everybody will just lose heart and give up on the idea altogether. So try and stretch it a little, but know that it's within your boundaries to achieve it, and it will save you money, which is maybe one of the most important things as well. And you can get really creative with your menus, which again, the visitor, the customer, the tourist is looking for, especially with local produce. And that is me. Thank you very much. I'm very open now to questions. Thanks, Patricia.
Thank you so much, Danielle. Lots to think about and absorb there. As Danielle mentioned during the presentation, there's lots of really useful resources and to help you sort of begin reduced food waste in your business. We have a Leaner and Greener hub on our website, which is tourismni.com/leaner-greener. So we've got resources in relation to food waste and also in relation to our other webinars that we've delivered so far, so about water conservation and general waste, and also resources from our masterclass last year, which was looking about saving energy in order to sort of save costs, like you mentioned, Danielle. It comes down to that bottom line as well. It's not just about that kind of environmental side of things, but actually physically reducing your costs. So a reminder to everyone joining us today that this session's been recorded. So if you feel like you wanted to watch it again at your leisure, we'll be sharing a link to the recording as soon as we have that up online as well. And a reminder, I'll be sharing a couple of questions with Danielle very shortly. So if you've found your little chat box there, if you haven't submitted a question already, but you've something you'd like to ask this afternoon, then please just pop that in the chat. So just before we get into the questions here, I'm going to do a couple of very quick short polls. So the first one will pop up on your screen now is, how would you rate today's session in terms of content and relevance to your business? So that's with 1 being not relevant at all and 5 being extremely relevant. I'll just give you a second to make a selection there. Thank you so much. And the second question is, do you plan to take any action within your business as a direct result of what you've heard today from Danielle? So that's just a simple yes or no. Okay, and as always, we'll be issuing a short survey, a link to a survey via email after this session. So that's your opportunity to let us know how you find today's session, but also what you'd like to see in the future from our TED program. So really appreciate if you can take the opportunity to complete that whenever you have a moment, as we're constantly evolving and developing the program. And we will be looking, we sort of run our program generally sort of October through till March. So we're already going to be thinking about next autumn's program as well. So definitely go ahead and fill that in, and it means we can take that into account when we're building that program out. So thank you again, Danielle, for that the presentation there. And we've got a couple of questions that have come through. So I think we'll just fire away on those, and I'll be keeping an eye on the chat here. So if anyone does have anything else that they want to pose to Danielle here this afternoon, then please feel free to pop it in there. So we do have a question that is about sort of events and festivals side of things. So would you have any tips for events and festivals on how to encourage stall holders to reduce food waste? I know it can be a tricky one in that environment.
Yeah. Well, as I mentioned, I think it was about halfway through, there is the Getting Started guide. And I think actually a lot of the resources and hints and tips and materials there could very, very easily be taken and shared with members or stall holders or market traders to help get them, I suppose, on board as well and reducing their own food waste. I think too, at events, when it comes to that, I suppose, unavoidable amount that is left over, so, where it has to be, I suppose, binned, I would always encourage organisers to consider composting before landfill, because at least it can be treated properly and reduces the carbon emissions. But a lot of the time people do tend to just throw anything into any bin. And I think where it will make a big difference is if festival organisers are able to put people who can help, I suppose, advise and signpost people to use the right bins or the right receptacles. And I know that just comes down to a resource issue, so it's up to everybody as an individual to decide whether they have that. But I think to really get the kind of result you're wanting, that's probably going to help to make a bigger difference overall. So hopefully that answers that question.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know there's sort of that one is always on the actual consumer to, put the thing in the right bin. It's sort of, there's only so far you can go, but at least we can start to take steps. And I suppose awareness is starting to raise among everybody. So hopefully that's the kind of thing that will continue to improve over time, Molly. Someone has asked us here about what responsibility do local authorities have to insist on cafes and restaurants having brown bins for food waste for composting? Is that something that's enforced, or is it really just at own discretion?
Food waste isn't really enforced by local councils. Theoretically, food waste recycling is the segregation of that. You are supposed to legally do that within your food premises. But that really, I think, is supposed to come from the likes of DAERA or government. A lot of councils will offer a food waste recycling service for business, but also a lot of them prefer to sort of stay away from that. And so most of the time, food waste premises will align themselves with a collection agency. So I think just where you're trying to look for a wee bit more support on that, I would definitely suggest going back to whoever it is that's collecting your food waste. But it's actually not the legal requirement of the local council.
Okay, that's interesting. And I suppose, we're sort of talking, well, you've been covering all along about what steps you can take to reduce food waste, but sometimes just unavoidably, no matter, people are trying their very best and how diligent they are to keep food waste to a minimum, but there could be an unavoidable surplus in some instances. Is there any suggestions that you would have for, if someone finds themselves in that situation, what they can do?
Yeah, I mean, where there is surplus food, I would definitely recommend that organisations align themselves with their local, I suppose, food banks. So in Northern Ireland, the central point for that would be Fair Share. Fair Share will come along, they'll take whatever surplus food that you have and they'll distribute that amongst charities right across Northern Ireland who are in need. And that could be the likes of breakfast clubs for schools, for kids who maybe aren't getting a breakfast before they go out in the morning. It could be food banks, it could be anything, it could be soup kitchens. So I think not only does that opportunity save the business money, because it'll always be a much better option than having to throw it out, it's also contributing to the local community and it's giving something back as well on a social level, which again, for those who are very into their marketing, so long as it's done genuinely without greenwashing, it actually becomes quite a nice story to tell as well.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's lovely. I suppose from my perspective, because we've had a whole series of these webinars now, one of the big things that I sort of have taken out of this, it's sort of the same across the board, no matter what kind of whether it's waste, whether it's water conservation, the one of the big things, and you mentioned it today, is sort of that initial audit, so it's actually becoming aware of just what your starting point is and how much you are wasting. And I think I suppose just from my perspective, that's one thing that I would sort of draw is that it's consistent across anything from this leaner greener thing. And in terms of saving money, it's being aware of what's happening right now as your starting point, and then that commitment to make the changes and setting your goals. But I think it's quite interesting that no matter what it is, it's that's the kind of key thing across it all, isn't it? So
they do say, how do you know where you're going if you don't know where you're at?
Exactly.
I think sometimes whenever you say to people about getting a baseline or auditing, I think those terms can sometimes seem a bit much for people. It seems like it's quite a big process, but it literally just means weigh your food waste where it is now, weigh your food waste, start to separate out without doing anything, see where it's at, and then make improvements from that point. So yeah, it doesn't have to be as big and scary and intimidating maybe as people initially think.
Mm-hmm. And we have sort of a quite specific question on that's come through. So someone's wondering whether green compostable waste fits into the measurement weighing system, or is that separate? So I'm just trying to interpret that. That maybe means more to you, Danielle. Was the different types of food waste?
If you are taking that, just because you're taking that element out and composting it, which is great, that is still going to come from like say, is it prep, or is it, it's still going to fit into one of those categories. So for you, you're still paying for that produce at the start. If that produce is being wasted, that's still costing you money. So it will still fit within those containers. But if that container, and I mean, you might feel that there's certain, for you, it might be that prep waste, there's two buckets. There's prep waste that can be composted and prep waste that can't. But ultimately, that would still be, say, prep waste. So yeah. Hopefully that's clear. But it is good that you're composting it. So
yeah. Exactly. Keep doing some of what you're doing. Absolutely. Thank you so much for everyone that submitted questions today. And thank you so much, Danielle. This has been really interesting. I suppose just another reminder to head to tourismni.com/leaner greener to access the whole range of useful resources and additional information across all the topics in our Leaner and Greener series, as I mentioned before. But also there's even more resources, which Danielle had mentioned, on the Guardians of Grub website, which is I think just guardiansofgrub.com, isn't that right? Okay. So feel free to go on and have a look there as well. And if you want to go back and watch any of our previous events or webinar recordings, they're all available on our website from the past TED series, which is tourismni.com/TNI events. If you go see our previous events, you can access all the recordings from the ones that have passed, and the recording from today will be up there as soon as possible. So yeah, that's it. We'll get the recording from today up as quickly as we can. So thank you so much to everyone that's joined us here this afternoon. Thank you once again, Danielle. It's been lovely speaking to you today, and see you all again soon. Thank you so much. Cheers.
Thank you.